Spider-Man Far From Home is out, and as of this taping, is certified fresh at 92%, continuing the MCU's marvelous reign of 23 consecutive fresh films without a single rotten, 21 of which are certified fresh. But is it the best Spider-Man movie of all time? Hi everyone, I'm Mark Ellis, that is my true identity, and welcome to the After Show. This is a spoiler-heavy show, so if you haven't seen the new Spider-Man movie yet, I did my best. I am so excited to welcome this panel to the show. First of all, we have Geek Bomb host Maude Garrett is back.
Hi, so glad to be here for this one, especially. It's so good.
This is going to be a fun conversation for sure. And joining us is Rotten Tomatoes certified critic and pop culture critic, the one, the only Miss Joelle Monique is here.
Hi! I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you. And were we really going to talk Spider-Man without this next guy? Scott Mantz, our returning champion, is back.
Returning champion, Spider-Mantz. Meet Spider-Man. Come on. We're going to have a great conversation about Far From Home. Man, these Spider-Man movies are awesome.
They just keep getting awesomer according to the Tomatometer anyway. And so before we get into our spoiler-heavy conversation about all things Spider-Man Far From Home, I do want to throw it to my panelists individually just to get your quick take. Is this a fresh or rotten movie? Joelle, I'll start with you. Fresh or rotten?
Absolutely fresh. We're getting our first mainstay villain in a really long time. Tom continues to hit it out of the park as like our sweet, adorable, like cherub baby Spider-Man, and I love him. And on top of that, we get like possibly a new MJ angle, which I'm really excited to explore.
I am definitely with you with the MJ angle. Scott Mantz, do I even have to ask the question?
Oh, look, this is fresh by a mile, and you got to look at it this way. Not only did you have Spider-Man appearing in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and Homecoming and Into the Spider-Verse, which won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, but Far From Home still feels like a fresh, vibrant movie, and that's a feat unto itself.
All right, Maude Garrett, do you agree with your two co-panelists?
Fresh. This is like such a beautiful movie, especially like after the gravitas that was Endgame. You know, a lot of feels there, but we're kind of like coming out of it and enjoying these so much. Jake Gyllenhaal, fantastic. He's having the time of his life.
Yep.
I love Spider-Man, and I think that it's the best it's ever been.
I cannot believe that I'm the only person on this show that is going to say that I think Spider-Man Far From Home is not rotten. I was just teasing y'all. Of course, it's a fresh movie. I do have some issues with the movie. I have some things that I want to get into. The first of which is the villain Mysterio, because I've seen a lot of people raving about how much they love Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie, and that this could be one of the best MCU villains that they've seen. So that's some heady company to be in, Maude. When you look at somebody like a Thanos or a Killmonger or a Loki, where does Mysterio rank as far as your favorite MCU villains?
I honestly don't think it's fair to kind of put him in line with all of those other ones. You've got Thanos, you've got, you know, all of these villains that have the greater good kind of aspect, where they really do believe that what their motive is the betterment of society. Jake Gyllenhaal and Mysterio is a disgruntled employee. He is just an angry guy that feels like maybe all the money and success and notoriety shouldn't have gone to someone like Tony Stark, and that he was treated poorly, and he's unifying disgruntled employees around the world, but using technology to prove the point, which is like exactly really what Tony Stark did, using technology to kind of gain power, but he's using it against him.
Yeah, and Scott, we've seen this angle before in the MCU as it relates to Tony Stark and a former disgruntled employee. So Did you just see a lot of shades of Justin Hammer here? Was this a little too Ultron-y for you? Was this like, again, we're mad at Tony Stark and we have to form something that gets our revenge?
Okay, well, this is not the first time we've seen a disgruntled employee in a superhero movie. Remember Amazing Spider-Man 2? Electro was a disgruntled employee. And remember, wasn't it Batman Forever, in which the Joker was a disgruntled ex-employee?
You're pulling out all the comic book movie hits.
Right, but that's the thing, is that it's been done. What hasn't been done is the use of Mysterio. Now, as a lifelong Spider-Man fan, I love how they've gone back and they've mined the classic villains like the Green Goblin, Sandman. You know, Electro wasn't so hot, but Doc Ock was great. But I've always felt like Electro was underappreciated, overlooked as a villain. He made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man number 13 back in 1964. And with today's special effects in these movies, it's like a perfect playhouse, a great wheelhouse for a character like Mysterio. So to update him as a disgruntled ex-Stark employee, I thought was a good touch. And Jake Gyllenhaal, he was great, but at first, it took me a little while to warm up to him, and here's why.
Smoke and mirrors, baby.
Smoke and mirrors, because you didn't really. This is a good thing about the film. You didn't know in the movie what Mysterio's motive was.
Yeah, Joelle, I want you to jump in there on that real quick, because we, as like hardcore comic book fans, or at least people that follow the news, we know that Jake Gyllenhaal has been cast as this villainous presence. But I think that people watch this movie. My mom might watch this movie and assume, oh, this is Jake Puppy Dog Eye Gyllenhaal. He's going to be a good guy teaming up with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think that's what really works about it, actually. I think we have had a lot of disgruntled employee kind of villains, but they're so angry. And I feel like he's not as angry at Tony Stark as he is seeing an opportunity to build himself. I think he's much less disgruntled and more like, I too am a genius and I haven't had my moment in the spotlight and now I'm going to seize it because Tony Stark is gone. I also think it expands the world in such an interesting way. You now have regular people who are like, I'm gonna get in on this superhero action. Whereas before everyone's like, I kind of don't want to, or I just have to stop something bad. Like the world is gonna end if I don't suit up. Whereas now we just have guys who are like, I just have like some theatrical stuff.
But also, you know, what's great, and I agree with you, I like how they just sort of, they made it current, they made the character fit, you know, by making him less of a hero, more of a master of technology. But true to the original character of Mysterio, he is the master of illusion. And there is a scene in this movie where Mysterio really messes with Spider-Man, driving him bonkers, that I swear could have come right out of a page from Amazing Spider-Man number 67, Stanley John Romita, and it is a great scene. And I'm sitting there watching the movie going like, yeah, this is exactly how I envisioned them using Mysterio in a big MCU movie.
Well, I'm watching that scene myself, and I'm saying this is such a worthy opponent to all the powers that Spider-Man has. Then at the end of the movie, Spider-Man just remembered that he had Spidey sense, and he built himself a suit. And so, like, you know, my favorite part of the Mysterio Spider-Man was actually the chemistry that they had together when he was being that father figure. And then once Mysterio just manifested as a villain by the end of the movie, I just thought it was, I don't want to use the word forgettable because you did bring some things to the MCU, but I don't think that as we get further into these movies, I think we're going to look at a first appearance for a villain, like a Killmonger or a Loki, I think are the two best ones that we've seen yet. And I think that Mysterio might just be, he's not a Malekith, but he's just another dude.
And you're saying that because maybe you just don't have the knowledge maybe of the character that some other people do.
That's probably probably likely, yeah. But
there you go.
I disagree just in that I think that Mysterio is not, because he's so different than a lot of the other villains, I don't think he's gonna get, to me, like Ultron is sort of a forgettable villain. Like he doesn't have like a strong central motivation other than destroy. I feel like Mysterio's like desire to be seen, especially as we've just left all of the Avengers being like, so that was wild, man, and we gotta go soul searching and we gotta get back to our roots, and we're not here for the celebrity or even to be, you know, spotlighted and lifted up. We're just gonna help like in the background now is sort of kind of where everyone's gone to. I think having villains like Loki who are like, I'm gonna like shower down giant cloud monsters to destroy the Earth, I think it's going to have to bring the Avengers back out into the spotlight. And I think if Mysterio's leading the charge, especially knowing how charming he is, knowing how good Marvel is at revamping and angling, like, I'll agree with you that it might have been a little bit light, but I think that's what the MCU tends to do. They're like, well, we're not quite sure what people will like. We'll write something very strong, and then we'll let the fans tell us what they like, and we'll surprise them later.
And it's also the MCU is still rebounding the fans from everything that went on in Endgame. And so we just had such a heavy, really two movies with Infinity War and then Endgame, and you put Captain Marvel in the middle of that. And so it was nice just to have a movie like Spider-Man Far From Home that has such a great sense of humor and is so refreshing in that regard.
Here, I completely agree with you, Mark, because here's the beauty of Far From Home. So first of all, it works as a standalone Spider-Man film. Second of all, I think it's a superior film to 2017's Homecoming.
Agree.
Okay, and second,
and not many people do. Well, it's a bit split.
It's a split, but I definitely felt like it was superior in most of the ways, because also what this movie does, it is a coda to Avengers Endgame. It extends Phase 3 of the MCU just a little bit further, maybe inching towards Phase 4 just a little bit. Like for people who just wanted a little bit more after Endgame, which is a heavy movie, a lot of deep emotional moments. Here's a movie that's just super fun. It's a perfect blend of action, heart, and humor. Perfect for the July 4th weekend.
Yeah, and before we move on to our namesake hero, I just want to get y'all's quick take. Does this kill the idea of a multiverse? Because it was teased and that was kind of the fake backstory. So does this mean we're not getting a multiverse anytime soon in the MCU?
Not at
Does it
all.
mean that it is actually more likely?
Listen, again, looking at the structure of typical Marvel movies, if we look back at like Captain America, the first Avenger, we know that they like to tease like, here's some Thor stuff. It's just pictures, just hanging in the background. I think mentioning it actually means we're going to get closer to it. I think because you get Peter pontificating of like, well, how would that work? And he gives you like 6 different ways that it could possibly work. I think we're going to get it sooner rather than later, and I think we're going to come back later to this movie and go, that's where they were teasing it, and that's where they were teasing it.
Maude, your body language says
Can't
agree.
agree. Absolutely. The fact that they've said the word means that it exists. I tried to get out of Amy Pascal with Into the Spider-Verse the fact that the multiverse is definitely in existence. And I was like, is this canon? And are we leading into that? And will we see that split multiverse in an upcoming Spider-Man movie? To which she was incredibly tight-lipped, of course. But, you know, this is the second time we've really seen or heard about it. Even though it was smoke and mirrors, I mean, hello, that's
Mysterio.
That's it.
Yeah, I liked it a little bit just as, if nothing else, as a nod to what we got with the, Into the Multiverse movie, but I think that we could be seeing more of the multiverse coming up in the MCU.
I would also love to see a live-action Miles Morales
Yes, please.
Spider-Man movie.
Female Doc
Right
Ock
away.
in the
Yeah.
flesh would be great
Oh, yeah,
too.
that would be awesome.
She was
There's
great
a whole-
in that.
This
Okay,
could really
well,
go
we
far.
pitched more Spider-Man movies. Let's move on to the Spider-Man that we currently have, and we should be very happy with, and that would be Tom Holland. And in this movie, the way that Tom Holland kind of tries to take the mantle from Tony Stark, I feel like Tony Stark is always going to be a presence in these movies going forward, even though it's just going to be the spirit of Tony Stark living, breathing through Spider-Man. Is he the successor to Tony Stark in your eyes?
Okay, well, first of all, I agree that in this film definitely feels not just like Tony Stark as a presence, feels like he's in the movie, and he kind of is in one particular scene. This movie is a love letter to Tony Stark, and it is a great passing of the torch, a passing of the baton from Tony Stark, who saw Peter Parker as a great, not just a protege, but like next in line to really take charge of the Avengers. And he's only, like you said, Maude, he's 16 years old. There's a whole lot of places for this to go, but I think with this film, again, it's a coda to Endgame, where we saw, again, spoiler alert, this is a big one, we saw Iron Man, he's gone, he's out. So this sort of feels like a further coda to him and a tribute to his character. But I think after this, you're going to see and feel the presence of Tony Stark much, much further in the rearview mirror.
It felt like the end of Endgame for a while there, Joelle, but then once we get Spidey on the jet and he's hanging out with Happy and he's building his own suit, it's like, this is the new Tony Stark. Do you look at Spider-Man as the new face of the MCU? Should he be the new face of the MCU?
Should he? I mean, he's capable of doing it. I think people love Tom Holland. They're having really great reactions to him. I think what I've really loved about the MCU is that it's sort of all-encompassing, but it also has, like, it's dealing with a lot of adult themes and stuff. Spider-Man's still very young to me. I think Tony leaving weapons of mass destruction to a 16-year-old is questionable parenting.
It's so Tony.
But that being said, so I'll say this. I'm not sure how I feel about Spider-Man being the center of the Marvel Universe. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. How is he going to lead the Avengers, and how's Thor going to take orders from Spider-Man? And it's a lot of like weirdness on that level. However, if we're talking about a spiritual like inheritance of the role Tony gave, which is sort of the heart of the MCU, the guy people turn to when they're not quite sure how they're feeling about something, I think his decision to step back, he took the exact same route Tony took after Infinity War. He's like, I just want to be with my family. I'm not putting on this suit. I'm going to just step away. I'll monitor things. Like, I'm going to check in, but like, please don't involve me. And I think that he was trying to achieve what Tony achieved while he was gone. And I think that makes him the spiritual inheritor of Tony's legacy.
And if Tony Stark was the spiritual leader of the MCU, I would still argue that Captain America was the face of the Avengers.
He was the
and
soul, yep.
we had a Captain America cameo in this, Anthony Mackie's taking over for Captain America, but that got cut at the end because they didn't want to undercut what was already happening in the third scene. So I would have loved to have seen that cameo. So maybe hope for the Blu-ray. Do you think that Spider-Man is the logical choice to be the face of the MCU, or do you have another candidate, Maude?
I want to step out from sort of like the lore of it all and like the hypothetical, and I want to talk about the Hollywood budgets and, you know, that side of things. I think that you've got Tom Holland, who was brought on board as a no-name, and that he is now all-encompassing as a Marvel superhero. I think that they can afford him. I think that they've signed him onto a 10-year deal. He himself has said that he'll play Spider-Man for the rest of his life. I think that Tom Holland is the new Hugh Jackman, whereas we are going to see this guy play Spider-Man for the next 16 years. Like, I think that the tenure is going to be very long and established, and that's going to be great. Is he ever going to replace Tony Stark? No, we need the juxtaposition between the ingrained heroes that have the life experience, that the end of the world is constantly on their mind, and then bringing it back to what is human, like what's so human and like what's innocent, which is Spider-Man just wanting to kiss a girl that he likes. You know?
That's the
you
thing.
need both of them.
That's the thing. Spider-Man still has a lot of growing up to do. He's only 16 years old. We haven't seen him get the job yet at the Daily Bugle working for Jake Jonah
That's not
Jameson.
gonna happen. That's not going to happen. That's done.
That's not going to happen?
No.
He's not going to get a job as a photographer for the Daily
Because he's
Bugle?
out already. The first thing that happened in that post-credit scene when J. Jonah Jameson is like, Peter Parker, da-da-da.
Which was, by the way, was awesome.
It was
But he knows his name.
This is
We are
why
never
I
gonna
really don't have
see
to
that.
work at all as a host, because our next topic is, as a matter of fact, that incredible post-credit scene where you do have, and it was a good post-credit scene anyway, because it did give Mysterio kind of a life after supposed death, and we're like, oh God, he revealed it, I can't believe it. And then at least the theater that Joelle and I were in exploded when
Amazing.
J. Jonah
was
Jameson,
great.
played by J.K. Simmons, back on the screen. Our theater was making so much noise, and rightfully so. I couldn't really understand where he was going with it for a while, and then I picked up that he is anti-Spider-Man, and he's just very kind of bloggery, like, I'm going to attack Spider-Man with this grain of salt of possible truth that I have. So I like where that was going, just as somebody wants to be entertained in the moment. But now as we step back and look at what this actually does for the MCU, we know who Spider-Man is now. Joelle,
Everyone
how's that
does.
going to change?
What isn't going to change? Everything changes, especially because here's what I'll be most interested to see is we know Peter does not want anybody he's around to be hurt. And he says consistently throughout the movie, if my identity is revealed, I'm not going to be doing this. So do we come back and Peter's like, nah, man, I'm just Peter now. But also, like, Spider-Man has such a strong relationship with New York, and it's one of my favorite things about Homecoming, which is still my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, was this idea of how connected he is. How does New York let Peter Parker just go by now? Like, you are Spider-Man. So it'll be interesting to see, and maybe that's the way they force him to get into the Avengers. If he skips the Bugle, if he, instead of going to college, he's got a ton of great professors already around him in the Avengers. Maybe they're training him up, teaching him, and he's, I don't know, learning how to run Tony Stark's corporation?
But he's still a kid. He needs to have the experience of college to grow as a person. Sure, he's around the best people, who could really mentor him in the Avengers, but he needs to grow as a person and have the experience
I
of
would
like,
argue
going away to
this.
school
But
and all that.
Generation Z, as far as like, if you're looking at kids right now who are Spider-Man's age, many of them are not going to college. They just can't afford it. And so maybe they lean more into the
Good point.
current generation of
That's
how
a great
they're,
point.
They can't
navigating
afford
the
it, or
world.
they make hundreds of $millions going right to the NBA. And LeBron James has done a pretty good job
God,
of
of
not
course.
going
Or
to
they're
college.
YouTubers or
And
pro-gamers.
I would say LeBron James is the best superhero we have on earth right now. He is our current Spider-Man. And if you look at where Peter Parker's going, Scott, I think that honestly the best use for him right now, because I do agree with what you said, is that he is a kid and he's not ready to handle the responsibility that I think that Anthony Mackie's Falcon, now Captain America, could, or what T'Challa
What
could.
about T'Challa? That's who I'm thinking.
But here's the thing with Spider-Man, because we know who Peter Parker is, I think he is a great distraction. I think that he is something you can dangle in front of villains, and they all go after him, and we have all these other Avengers that can just come out of the woodwork, and that's how you take down a threat.
No matter what he grows into, whether he goes to the work for the Daily Bugle, whether he goes to Empire State University, whether he meets Gwen Stacy, whether he starts dating Betty Brant, who they introduced in Far From Home.
How dare you? He's not going to date his best friend's ex.
Well, I mean, he did
How
date
dare you?
Betty Brant in the
There
comics.
are best friend rules.
Whose husband was the Hobgoblin, but I'm totally going off the rails here. But the other thing is, as much as I love Far From Home, the problem I have with the film, and this is a problem, is that while it's really cool to see Spider-Man finally interact and pal around with Iron Man and Captain America and the rest of the Avengers in the MCU, there's something to be said about just having a movie that's just about Spider-Man. I just want a movie about Spider-Man, which is why, in terms of live-action movies, Spider-Man 2 from 2004 with Tobey Maguire, directed by Sam Raimi, to me is still the best Spider-Man movie of them all.
I think that's
It's
why you're not
just
getting
about
the standalone,
Spider-Man.
because we've already had that. It's already been done, and I think that was a really poignant moment that I had during the end credit scene, where it was like, well, we know Spider-Man's story so well because this is the third iteration that we've seen,
Right.
and I was ready. I was bracing myself for when he does become a photographer for the Daily Bugle, because it's like that's the story that I know, and I'm ready for it. So to hear that that's off the table now, we are now venturing into mysterious ground where this is like, unfamiliar territory. So Sad that we're not going to see Tom Holland's version of what that looks like, but we've got a whole new day.
For the fans.
What keeps this movie from being like the best live-action movie for me, though, is that it's such a busy film. There's so much going on. They're going all over Europe. You have all these supporting characters in Peter Parker's life. You have all these other characters in the MCU, like Happy Hogan and Nick Fury. And there's so much story going on, too, that I felt like at times that Spider-Man was a guest star in his own movie. And as a Spider-Man fan, I just want a movie about Spider-Man.
Okay, what if I give you a movie about Spider-Man, and possibly the next standalone Spider-Man movie we get, but that has Venom in it as well? Because they could have Tom Hardy Venom. If you're going to put J.K. Simmons back as J. Jonah Jameson, anything's possible now.
Right.
So, Joelle, do you think that we could see Tom Hardy's Venom go up against Tom Holland's Spidey?
Control my face. I'm so sorry, fans who love this iteration of Venom. Your points and love are totally valid, and I respect them. Oh, Lord, I don't like that version of Venom. I don't understand it. I think we were talking a little bit before the show about how sort of expansive that character is based off of how the Venom movie ended, so maybe it could morph into something else. I'll say Marvel could do it. I hope they don't.
I think they will do it, Scott.
I think they will do it, and I think that, listen, I did not like the standalone Venom movie, but I did like, not love, but I did think that Spider-Man 3 from 2007, not the best Spider-Man movie, but not the worst either. It has its moments. Oh, come on, you're giving me the dark Peter Parker. Listen, that scene was a bit much, but Eddie Brock is played by
Topher Grace.
Topher
My
Grace in the
doppelganger,
movie.
yes.
I thought that he was actually really good. But I think obviously there's a lot of potential for a really great Venom villain against Spider-Man. That's coming. All the fans definitely want to see it. They need to get that right, and I think that's coming soon.
But they're gonna make it into a buddy movie at the end because everyone likes Venom and they kind of like that he's this
Maude,
Anti-hero.
is Venom
Anti-hero.
a villainous enough presence to go up against Spidey, or do you just want to see him?
I want Tom squared. I want to see Tom Holland, and I want to see Tom Hardy, and I want to see them Tom together.
Squared.
I just want some Tom time.
I like Tom is being used as a verb, a gerund, everything else. It's an adverb.
It is Tom for that movie.
It's time to move on to the next post-credit scene, which was another twist that we got that really blew the MCU wide open because we thought we were watching Nick and Maria. We weren't. We were watching Skrulls play the role, and then Nick Fury is off doing other stuff in more of a Captain Marvel sort of setting. So
He's having a holiday.
He's
deserved it. He's done how many movies already?
He was having a fake holiday. Then he gets off the screen, then he says back to work. So do you like that twist that it wasn't actually Nick Fury the entire time in Far From Home, Maude Garrett?
All right, so here's a little thing that I'm noticing with Marvel. We're starting to fall into crutches, and these two things that we've established in the Marvel universe now can kind of solve any problem, and that is the introduction of Skrulls being shapeshifters and potentially playing anyone, which is good and bad, because the good thing is I now want to watch this movie again and find these quite now obvious hints that it wasn't them necessarily. Like they had met before, Nick Fury and Spider-Man, and he said, "Nice to meet you." And I was like, that's a little weird. Maybe I can't remember. And so it's like, I like those little payoffs, but at the same time, it's like someone's going to die and then they turn into a Skrull. And you're like, oh, cool.
Right.
The other one is time travel. So we've seen that that's an easy fix. And if you don't like it, go back in time and do it again. So I think that these are two sort of like very blanket, very clever, but very forgiving kind of crutches that they can lean into.
Yeah, Scott, I had the pleasure of seeing this movie last week, and so I said, yeah, look, I'm going to give myself the weekend, and then I'll know how I feel about this post-credit scene, but I have no idea how to feel. Tell me how to feel.
Okay, well, first of all, I hate to say this, but the better credit scene was the big reveal to the city of New York and to the world that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. What came after that was the reveal of Nick Fury as a Skrull. I didn't really care that much about it because I did not care for the movie Captain Marvel. I thought it was bland. I thought it was weak. And I just really didn't think that the character really stood out. I'm sorry. I thought that
we were friends, Scott.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I thought that Captain Marvel was the weakest movie in the MCU.
You should never get
Have
heat
you
for
seen
being
Thor:
honest.
Dark World?
Thor: Dark World is also not good, and neither is Iron Man 2, and neither is
16
Guardians of the
bolts down.
Galaxy 2.
Okay, so defend this post-credit scene for us, Joelle, because
Yeah.
why
Listen.
is this so important that, Nick Fury is off doing what?
Nick is our link across the MCU. He is the thing that brings us all together. So I was personally shocked when people were like I knew instantly something was wrong with Nick Fury. Like, Mysterio's antics, not that great. Like, after the bar scene, there's no reason Nick Fury, who's 1,000 times smarter than me, isn't picking up on these things. Something is wrong. And the whole time, I'm freaking. I'm like, what are they doing to Nick Fury? Like, he came back and he's disoriented and he doesn't have contacts. And Spider-Man's the only one he can reach out to. There are still so many people on the planet Earth. This is a setup where something weird is happening. I don't understand it. Then we get to the end and there's just like great reveal of like Nick is off-world. He is setting up the scrolls to build or sustain something on Earth. We don't know what it is. What is your mission in outer space? What are you doing out there? Do you need more heroes? Are you concerned? Are you
Secret Wars?
maybe?
Ooh.
I'm not really. I don't want to see
I
Secret
think
Wars.
we just won Mantz over.
Whoa. Secret Wars.
That's what's
The
happening.
Beyonder.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You
Mind
like it now?
blown.
You're welcome.
My mind.
This is why we show up and do these shows, because even though we've seen the
Think
movie,
about that.
we have our opinions. They can be changed during the course of a conversation.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Well, there you go.
Whoa.
Whether you're watching at home or you're hosting the show and you're not sure what Secret Wars is,
I got you.
just give me a quick run
Okay.
through from each panelist.
Back in the early 80s, 1984 to be exact, the Marvel Universe was shaken up when all the greatest heroes like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the Hulk, and the greatest villains like Doctor Doom and so on were taken to another world by a great being called the Beyonder, who made them fight each other, and whoever won would have the powers of the Beyonder and be able to control the universe. It is actually a story that, in terms of the movies, could be bigger in the stakes than even Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. And I like the concept of that's actually where Phase 4 could go.
So basically, Spider-Man, we know you used to love being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and saving delis. It's going to get a little bigger than that. We have one more topic to get to, and that would be your overarching thought about how we ended Phase 3, because this is the official end of Phase 3, and now as we get into Phase 4, and where does this rank in your favorite Spider-Man films of all time? So, Joelle, let's start with you.
Okay.
Fitting into Phase 3, the right movie to launch Phase 4?
I think if we had had that Captain America scene, I would feel better about this being the start of 4. To me, this was such a, you call it an addendum. I don't like it. I don't like, to me, I don't need a post-credit scene movie. You know what I
I see
mean?
what you're
Like,
saying.
we had a definitive ending and it was so good. And I came into this part thinking, where are we going with 4?
It's literally
What's
called
happening next?
Endgame
Right,
as well.
exactly. No,
Yeah.
that's the end of it. So people were like, it's like an extension of 3. Well, who needs that? Like, why are we here? I feel like what I was really hoping for was like, what's the new direction? Is it Avengers? Are Avengers like, we don't have Tony anymore, we need to start going in a new direction? Is it going to be the teasing of X-Men? Like, and it turns out it's the teasing possibly of Secret Wars. But it to me, it didn't connect to anything. I still feel out in space. I don't know what's happening in Phase 4. I didn't really need an
I feel
ending.
like it's
Good,
the
by the way.
exhale after being punched in the gut. You
Bingo.
know? So it's like, oh, all right, we're back.
I need a
and
breath.
I don't feel like it's a full stop. It's not like the end. It's not like, it's almost like the webbing, pun intended, between the two. So it's like the inhale, like that you get to get back into the next one. I don't see it as a start end, you know, it's not black and white like
I
that.
think it's something we'll be able to measure better 5 or 6 films out when we can understand. Again, the great thing about the MCU is that it is developing universal storytelling. It has been my obsession since I was a child. I love crossover. I love like extending universes. It's why I like the fact that we have like 8,000 stories in here, because if you're an MCU diehard and you've seen all these movies and you've watched them again, these stories are super easy to follow because you're like, oh, hey, Happy's here. That's really cool. I think that the rewatchability of this movie is going to be so high. There's so much to go back and be like, oh, I see that there. And like, I see how this connects to our future stuff. So I'm looking forward to, you know, our next 3 movies coming out and then coming back to revisit this.
Scott, does rewatchability for you make a great film? So does that elevate Far From Home above Homecoming? Is that why
Absolutely.
you have that ranking?
Rewatchability makes a movie. I mean, I've seen Into the Spider-Verse like 4 times now, and there's so much to Into the Spider-Verse, especially Easter eggs for MCU fans and Spider-Man fans to find so many things, and also the depth of that film, which I saw as the It's a Wonderful Life of Spider-Man movies, which we could talk about on another after show for Into the Spider-Verse, which we could do like anyway. But I saw Far From Home like I said at the top of the show, as a coda, as an epilogue to Endgame. When what you just said, Maude, about it being sort of like, catching your breath after being punched in the gut. Endgame was a very heavy movie, a lot of emotional moments, and it ended.
I cried for 20 minutes straight.
It ended Phase 3
minutes.
in a really emotional, satisfying way. 22 movies, 11 years. But this is sort of like peeking ahead of what happens after that. I'd like to just know what happens after that. And it doesn't really advance at the Phase 4 in any definitive way, except for, I guess, that post-credit scene that I hold like a whole lot more now than I did 10 minutes ago. But I think it's going to be a rewatchable film. And on first viewing, I thought it was a very busy movie. But, maybe I'll like it better when I watch it again and again.
I just had an epiphany. Oh, here we go. So we don't get Peter Parker working for the Daily Bugle because he's no longer anonymous. But guess who is?
Is it MJ?
No, Miles
Mary Jane.
Morales.
Oh!
What if Miles Morales gets hired as a graphic designer
Wow.
or the likes
Oh my gosh.
and
Maude,
works at the
you're killing me.
Bugle?
You are killing me.
Joelle came hard to the hole with her MJ
died
prediction,
all the way.
and then you topped it with Miles Morales.
Oh my God.
So look,
And that's how we get Miles
Oh
in
my
there.
God.
Are
This
you
is like the
secretly
greatest
writing
after
for
show ever.
Marvel?
And they're best
because
friends.
look, this is what we're doing right now as fans of the MCU is that we're looking into Phase 4 and saying, well, this is what we most want to see. One of the things I would love to see in more Spider-Man movies is more of Mary Jane. I want to see more of Zendaya because I thought she was so good in this movie. I think it was a giant leap
different.
getting to know her character a
And I
little bit
kind of
more.
wish we had a little bit more of that secrecy, like that secret society that they both have together, and she's holding the biggest secret on her shoulders.
And then as soon as
trying
she
to have
knew it, it
relationship.
wasn't a secret
I know.
anymore.
I definitely feel like they did more with her and had to cut out because she has like maybe two really good character pivots in the movie that we don't get any kind of like lead into. She's sort of just like, and now I'm a spy, and I was like, dang it, could we have had like little teases of this earlier? She's so great in the role. I
But
do
we
hope they
had
give her
so much
heartier
work
roles
to
later.
do setting up Phase 4, though. So,
It's true. I know
we
there's
got
a lot
So
happening.
if I give you all one event that needs to happen in Phase 4, is it Secret Wars? Is it X-Men? Scott, I'll let you go first.
Oh, man.
What's the one thing we want to see in Phase 4?
I think the thing, and listen, as much as I'm a diehard fan of Secret Wars, I mean, I was like 15 when that came out in 1984. Yeah, I know, I'm old. But I think the thing that fans most want to see now that Disney bought Fox is X-Men and Fantastic Four in the MCU. And Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, said that was still a few years away. Yep. But that's what fans really do want to see, and that's going to happen. And they're going to reboot and recast the characters, just like they did with Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
So there's a vote for X-Men, Joelle.
I'm also going to give my vote to X-Men. Storm is coming. I don't know when and I don't know where. I know about 4 actresses are competing for the role already, just sight unseen. Like, we would just like it when it's available. I'm secretly rooting for Yetide Badake. I guess not so secretly. Yetide Badake, she's amazing. I also think that you have Scarlet Witch and this opportunity to make her the beginning and center of the X-Men. Again, what I just like about the MCU so much is that they do that great surprising of us. Like, they're just like, you don't know what's going to happen. You think you do. We're going to give you things that you like, but we're going to just mutate them so that they're new and interesting and fun. And I feel like with the X-Men, it's just, there's so much potential. And the fact that we get so many great wars between the X-Men and the Avengers, and that could be coming up, and we're drawing new sides. And then, but what I really want to see is more fleshing out of these young characters, to be honest. Kamala Khan should be there and be amazing. We should have America Chavez needs to come in and just kick so much butt. I'd love to see Silk. There's just so many great young characters. And I think we could build like a great like little high school kind of young Avengers world. I think it's what's been sorely missing from superhero movies for a long time. And
I know DC needs to do Teen Titans already.
I mean, their TV show is really great though.
It is, yeah.
But
There's that can of worms open in the comments. Maude Garrett, what's the one thing we need to see in
All right,
Phase 4?
so I'm a little bit overwhelmed with introducing all the X-Men, and it's like, how are you going to do that when we have so much happening already, and I don't want it to get convoluted, so here we go. Hold your head, because your mind's going to blow.
Okay.
We are introducing the multiverse, and in another universe, they're not superheroes and supervillains, they're just called X-Men. And that's how we get the X-Men, and that's how they are involved. So they're not. So it's just a multiverse with a whole new set of heroes that are just that
so
are
now
the
we're
X-Men.
following 2 separate stories on 2 separate storylines.
And then they combine.
And they cross over.
And you could probably,
So you're having people face themselves?
well, no, I don't think that they would necessarily exist. It's a multiverse, but instead of having, your Avengers, you have your X-Men. And
Oh,
it's like,
I
and that's
see.
how
I feel like I'm in a dorm room with Donald Sutherland, and I'm saying, so you're saying one tiny atom in my finger could be a whole universe. Our minds are blown, and that's all the time that we have Today on the After Show, I want to thank my panelists for not only an incredible spoiler-heavy review of Spider-Man Far From Home, but also giving us so much to feast on for Phase 4 and beyond of the MCU. And now it's your turn. Comment in the chat section right now here on YouTube. I know you're already probably doing it. Let us know your take on everything that you saw us debate today. What did you love about Far From Home? What did you want to see do better? Did Mysterio live up to the hype? Where do you want to see Phase 4 in the MCU go from here? We love hearing from y'all. So hit that bell if you're watching us on YouTube right now. That's going to give you an alert anytime we have a new After Show drop. And of course, subscribe right here to the Rotten Tomatoes YouTube channel. For my expert panelists, I am merely Mark Ellis, and I'm not a Skrull. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.